So we will start with judge introductions, and then you guys can introduce yourselves as you start your presentation. I'm gonna keep an eye on the time. You guys have 25 minutes for your presentation. Do you want a warning sign at some point, or are you gonna keep your eye on the clock, or how can I help you with the time?
A 5-minute warning would be
Okay.
great.
Okay, great. Okay, well, I'd like to have my co-judges introduce themselves first. No university affiliations, please.
Go ahead.
Professional affiliations? Do you want those?
University, but professional are fine.
Okay. Okay. I am Lisa Daggett. I am a professional fundraiser in the public health space. Nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you.
Jeff Shawcross, over 30-year career in business communications, owned my own agency. Have done lots of pitches, so I can sympathize. So good luck.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendra Jones. I'm technically the senior judge today. I'm going to be here for all the sessions today. I am the Chief Legal and Sustainability Officer for Epson America. We're a large company. My region is North and Latin America, but we're based in Japan. And we make printers and projectors, and I've been in the tech space for a long time, previously with Western Digital. And excited to be here, excited to hear your presentation, and I'll dive straight into my instructions. Okay, welcome to our 25-minute presentation. This is to my co-judges. You will adopt an identity and assign an identity to us as judges. So you'll tell us in your presentation who you want us to be as an audience, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You'll begin your presentation and will present to us without interruption. After your presentation, we will ask questions within role. After the Q&A, judges will provide feedback on your presentation. This is a blind judging competition, and at no time should you reference your university, just your team name. And you may begin.
Hello, Zara Board of Directors. Thank you so much for having our firm, Monumental Change Consulting, to talk about our recommendations for Zara. We appreciate the time and effort that you have taken so far to improve your sustainability initiatives. However, we think Zara can pull above their competitors and improve their sustainability initiatives with our Zara Green Shift program.
Hi, my name is Avon, and I'm the Human Safety Consultant here at Monumental Change Consulting. I'd love to introduce you to the rest of my teammates. We have Ame, our Financial Consultant, Brenda, our Waste Management Consultant, Natalia, our Renewable Energy Consultant, and Christine, our Ethics Consultant. Today we're going to be walking you through our 3 solutions on how Zara can go above and beyond in their sustainability. So I'll pass it off to Christine and Natalia for our executive summary.
Thank you, Avon. So if we can see on the next slide, we'll talk about the history of Zara's sustainability initiatives. So ever since its inception, Zara has been known for its innovation, with its production processes being turned into vertical integration, as well as being the first mover of fast fashion. And so currently, consumers are understanding now that their decisions are being important in terms of sustainability as well as ethics. And so companies should be starting to shift towards practicing ESG practices. And so that is what Zara has been doing so far in trying to innovate ESG practices with these 3 pillars. So transparency, waste emission, and factory ethical management. So for the first pillar, transparency was focused more on the Join Life program, which is a program to create tags that allow consumers to understand what raw materials as well as processes that go into the items that they're buying for specific products. With this program, we were able to create around 61% of Zara's inventory to have this Life program tag. However, this program was later accused of greenwashing by organizations such as Greenpeace, as well as other organizations, for its focus on its success, even though the result was very different. For example, they were definitely promising focus on recyclable materials when in fact they were using virgin materials. Now to go on to the waste emissions, there was 2 focuses that Zara really focused on with this was Circ Technology and its collaboration with that company, as well as the used clothing donation program. So the Circ Technology collaboration was focused on creating recyclable circular textile products with polyester and recycling that to create a new line. And this was a really great step in the right direction. However, the used donation clothing program was trying to donate items to nonprofits. However, it was seen with Greenpeace trying to focus on like geolocators and putting in clothing that they were donating, that it was not actually going to nonprofits, and in fact just random areas of Qatar and Spain and other areas that were not actually going to help donate. And in fact, in the end, factory ethical management was Zara's least focused on aspect. Currently, they have unsafe working conditions as well as low wages, around $3 to $4 per person. And even though that for high-risk countries such as Bangladesh, they have had multiple unions and protests that are trying to help improve conditions. However, they have not done anything to fully mitigate this. And so currently Zara's issue is fully just transparency as well as actually implementing the initiatives that they said they would, which is where our Green Shift program comes in. So the key issue that we're trying to address is how can Zara become a more environmentally responsible as well as reducing textile waste and implementing ethical issues into the fashion industry. And so we can see with its current analysis of the market segment that around 18 to 34-year-old women are the main demographic of Zara. And so that with this consumer trend, we see that this demographic is seeking to support more ethical and sustainable practices. And so that is why we are introducing the Green Shift program, which will allow you to create a Genius Rewards program, EV adoption in Zara's distribution, and publishing audits and suppliers on an interactive website. Our main goal is to emphasize sustainability initiatives into Zara's current business model, which will ultimately improve the environmental footprint as well as brand image. Now I'll give it to Natalia to talk about SDGs.
Alright, so we decided to focus on Sustainable Development Goal 12, which is responsible consumption and production. So when Zara focuses on raising its responsible production score, it also works to actively increase transparency. The specific targets that we would like to meet are 12.5 and 12.6, which will be met through all of our suggestions. So Zara needs to focus on its sustainability, working on sustainability standards, waste management, and transparency as a whole. Focusing on raising its SDG score will actively work to increase transparency as consumers are asking for their favorite brands to be more transparent so that they can feel better about purchasing products from them. So this will create trust between the company and its consumers, which will in turn retain old customers and bring in new ones as well. So if Zara doesn't work to achieve this SDG score, it will only hurt the environment, which works to create more carbon emissions if they don't switch their business model. So I'm going to switch it to Brenda in order to talk about our first suggestion.
Amazing. Thank you, Natalia. Our first recommendation really entails integrating customers into this fashion of circular economy in our Genius Rewards program. As aforementioned, consumers are now shifting towards sustainable brands, and not even that. Sustainable brands that are pushing the fashion industry to eliminate textile waste and also to be able to tackle their carbon footprint. There's also this new trend of the circular fashion economy, which emphasizes that resource efficiency and that waste reduction. And finally, the adoption of fashion models that also emphasize the recyclable aspect of production of traditional clothes production. Zara has responded to these needs, as aforementioned, through their pre-owned platform, the Polycotton collection, as well as their redesigned packaging. Again, the pre-owned platform, it allows customers to reuse, resell, and donate their clothing. However, there has been complications with that. The recycled Polycotton collection, in which they partnered up with Zurich, the recycling firm, in which they provided a collection that recycled polyester and cotton fibers and tackled that blended fibers issue within textile waste, as well as a redesigned packaging that eliminates single-use plastics among customers when receiving their products. Now, all these initiatives, although successful in some complications, there's still room for improvement for Zara to focus on this recyclable aspect of their fashion model, in which they need to focus on recycling of clothing items, because according to the Environmental Protection Agency, about 84% of donated clothing actually end up in landfills and incinerators anyway. So although pre-owned platform can be a great way for consumers to donate their clothing, there still exists this kind of issue where it's being, at the end of the day, ending up in landfills. So this can be seen through the objective of empowering Zara's customers to take part in this circular fashion economy by introducing a denim exchange program that enables them to swap their denim clothing items such as jeans, skirts, or shorts for points redeemable and get store credit out of this. Our strategy involves the customization and launch preparation of a pilot program. And next is the participant recruitment and implementation of this pilot program and the feedback collection and iterative improvement to scale up this project and be able to implement to further physical stores and other consumers worldwide. In the impacts, we hope to reduce textile waste, promote the circular fashion economy, lower carbon emissions, and engage customers in this process. Now, Zara can implement this program in 4 phases. The first phase really is to determine the goals of the program. Now, we recommend Zara to offer a $15 incentive for each denim donated item, in which it can scale up to $45. And I'll go a little bit deeper into this. Next is developing the online platform for the registration and rewards tracking of this program. So on the Zara app, for example, have a feature in which this can be done, which consumers can see what their points are and how much they can redeem in store credit. Next is creating a comprehensive plan for this promotion of awareness and campaign program, and be able to kind of facilitate that participation, the planning of that. Phase 2 really entails engaging Zara staff to be able to have the smooth operations of this logistical process. So what does it look like when someone wants to come in and donate their denim clothing item? How will the Zara staff be able to respond to that and be able to, in their internal system, reflect that store credit, as well as how it will look like with redeeming that store credit. There's also the pilot program to receive feedback and refine processes. Now, this pilot program can look like in many ways. We recommend actually Zara to implement it in metropolitan areas where a lot of Gen Z consumers are buying Zara products, such as New York City or Los Angeles, because about the majority of Gen Z population is now wanting to shop at sustainable brands that implement recyclable options like these. Phase 3 really involves the launching of that campaign to emphasize the $15 store credit incentive and implement the collection points. Phase 4 is really the collection of that data in terms of customer satisfaction rates, as well as participation rates in the program. So it's, for example, if we didn't have success in Los Angeles and New York City, which are large cities, we should receive a lot of participation, kind of see where those gaps were and refine those processes. And also work with partners for further enhancement. A look into the app, it will look like this. So on the Zara app, already it has 4 options of home, menu, account, and bag. But we actually recommend Zara to implement this reward system and implementing a feature where it says rewards. So as you can see, there's $50, $30, and $45 for their credit. As, for example, if they donate a jean skirt, they'll be able to get that 50%, and it'll reflect on their account by a coloring of the bar. But say they want to keep that $15 and then in a couple weeks come back and donate another piece of clothing, they'll get the $30 incentive. Again, they can redeem that immediately. So if I go in and donate a pair of jeans, I can immediately get that store credit and buy something that same day. There is this incentive to participate in the denim exchange program, and it begins by customers perceiving that $15 credit as a valuable benefit. But in that process, we encourage them to participate in the circular fashion economy by rewarding that sustainable behavior. So as they see that benefit, they will see that Zara is rewarding that behavior. And also, by being able to redeem the $15 credit immediately or be able to accumulate that credit for larger or higher value purchases, we're also incentivizing them to come back and keep donating for higher value purchases in the future. And it's important to note that Zara will have to take care of the transportation costs and handling costs to get these jeans to a recycling partner, in which we recommend Zara to partner up with a firm that is already doing this type of work, like Blue Jeans Go Green, that will take care of the separation of the fibers and being able to bring it back to Zara for us to produce more denim clothing. And in this way, Zara can keep denim products out of landfills and give them a second life for denim jeans or products. Now I'm going to pass it off to Natalia for recommendation 2.
Thank you, Brenda. So for our second recommendation, we took inspiration from Amazon's logistics model. So we recommend Zara to replace all the transportation in their supply chain system with electronic vehicles in order to curb carbon emissions. So as you can see, Zara emits
a record high amount of carbon emissions per year, so 7.77 million tons of CO2 per year as its carbon footprint. And Zara is very famous for its quick style trends. So in order to keep up with this, all these vehicles have to go back and forth from Spain to wherever they're delivering to, which emits these high amounts of CO2. So in order to keep up with consumer preferences, Zara needs to lower their emissions or get rid of them completely, and that's why we're suggesting them to switch to electronic vehicles to achieve that. Consumers really want to start purchasing from brands that have low carbon emissions and that are eco-friendly in order for them to feel better. So doing this will gain in more customers and also retain the old ones that they have already had. And in doing this, Zara will set a precedent for the industry as it is one of the biggest fashion corporations, and other brands will definitely follow suit once they see that such a big brand is successful in implementing this program. So I'm going to pass it off to Jaime, who's going to talk a little bit more about this program.
Thank you, Natalia. So for implementing this program, we want to introduce 4 countries that are essential in this change. The first one is Spain, given that it's the main producer and is the core of the operations. We want to show sustainability in that area. Also, Qatar and United Arab Emirates are 2 of the main Zara's export, and we believe that Qatar will be the greatest one between these 2, given the country's size and also the high infrastructure that they have. The United Arabs have been seen as one of the main adopters of electric vehicles, with a KR of 8.21% and estimated value of 2028 market of 370 million. Armenia has been open as a new testbed for Zara, and given its geographic location, we believe it will be a great implementation into the program. And trying electric vehicles here will be the connection between Spain's producer, Armenia's producer, and Middle East interest and demand for this Zara's product. So Zara will lower the carbon emissions, and this will be through 3 different companies in identities that we can see in the transportation. So Pika will allow reduced carbon emissions, as well as allow Pika's goal of a new form of safe, clean, and cost-effective aviation. Compared to other diesel and small cargo aircraft, it's only $15 an hour. And as Natalia mentioned before, Zara does 32 flights per week. However, we want to reduce that as well to 20 planes a week, which it will average a total cost per week of $900, as well as $46,800 per year. Zara Bigland is known as one of the best and first electro cargo ships in the world. They started in Norway, and through their cargo ships, it will eliminate 1,000 tons of CO2, as well as it represents 40,000 diesel trucks trips per year. And given Spain's strategic location and geographic location in the map, we believe only with 2 cargo ships they will be able to do it, with only a total cost of $50 million. Volta Zero is one of the first initiatives in implementing truck electric vehicles, and there is 3 main costs that Zara will need to assume. That is the leasing cost, the charging station, as well as operating cost. This will have a total cost of around $205 million, and I would love to explain afterwards how Zara will be able to not only being able to raise money, but also use financial incentives from government within Spain, Armenia, Qatar, and United Arabs in order to cover some of these costs. Now I'm going to pass it to Avin. He's going to explain the 3rd recommendation.
Thank you. So our 3rd recommendation focuses on the human aspect of Zara's supply chain. So we're really looking into their garment workers and how to create a safer environment that can boost productivity and also boost the public image of Zara. So right now, with some new EU legislator, especially the forced labor ban that was just signed off on, it is really important for Zara to know who makes their products and how they make their products. So this ban basically makes it so that any product going into the EU market cannot be produced using forced labor, and if it's suspected of that, they can be investigated and ultimately pulled out of the market, which would cause major financial and legal difficulties for Zara, as in addition to like the public image associated with that. So from one of the few examples of the current audits that they do, we could tell that they focus on lots of the technical things, such as work license, minimum wage, and hours. However, they don't focus on the nuanced human aspects, such as safety, discrimination, abuse, and violence, which is what we want to focus on in our new socially responsible audits. So this is kind of our roadmap for what we want to see from these audits. The first one is prioritizing significant areas. There are some suppliers that are just in more vulnerable areas for this, including Bangladesh, Brazil, Turkey, and Pakistan. Turkey is one of the most important ones because it is close to Spain, one of their biggest markets. Additionally, almost 10% of their suppliers are based in Turkey. So it's really important that they know all is well in those factors. The way they can do this is by performing a root analysis, which covers the true cause of issues. For example, if the workers are working lots of overtime, that could be the perceived issue, but really the true issue is that the factories are under high demand, that they can't produce sustainably. One of the ways that we'll do this root analysis is by conducting off-site interviews. This is really important because it creates a well-rounded audit by encouraging employees to talk in a safe and third-party site, and just it'll create more honest details about what's really going on. Another really important aspect of this is using independent third-party auditors. One of the biggest issues in the fashion industry is that audits tend to give positive reports to the brand, and so that causes lots of public image issues, and we want Zara to avoid that right off the bat and use auditors who have no conflict of interest or incentive to Zara. And then finally, we really push Zara to publish these audits in order to increase their transparency, which is something that they're really struggling with right now, and also allowing third-party action, which may not always be pleasant, but is just really important to being a responsible company. So,
5 minutes.
We are encouraging Zara's accountability by making information public and boosting consumer engagement on a website and a social media campaign. So this section will focus on educating consumers on what Zara is doing. You can see our impacts are promoting consumer interaction, which will boost the public image of Zara and mitigate any more public concerns. And then increasing brand accountability with NGOs, as we've mentioned, will boost their responsibility and can increase their worker safety by providing solutions. And then finally, we want to educate consumers on supply awareness and transparency, which will also highlight what Zara is doing instead of just hiding it away in some document that's unreachable by consumers. And I'll pass it to Ame for our financials.
Thank you so much, Avian. So as a conclusion, I want to expand a little bit more of the cost and financial repercussion of Zara. So given the circular operation recommendation, as well as the EV adoption based on Amazon, a strategy for distribution and logistics, as well as the incorporation of experts audits nationwide, it will be a total cost of change of 200 to 315 million at first. Which compares to last year's net profit, it will only represent a 5.34% of net profits. This is a very small percentage, as well as is a very scalable percentage, in the way that we want this percentage to increase year over year and hopefully being able to have a complete electric vehicle and net zero emission company. So now I'm going to pass it to Christine, that is going to do with the timeline.
Thank you. So we're going to be talking about, to make sure that this is understandable in the sense of visually, we made a 6-year timeline of how to implement this program. So if and when we do implement the program, 2024 will be mostly about research and development, as well as establishing partnerships with EV companies, and also creating local auditors for 6-month regular check-ins for NGOs, as well as industry experts and investors. And then in 2025 will be when we actually pilot the Genius Rewards program and any marketing that does include that, and it also implements a network of charging stations for the EV vehicles, which will be our most expensive year. Then around 2026 and 2028 will be when we start implementing the EV vehicles in specific areas. 2026 will be in Spain, and then 2020 will be Armenia, Qatar, and UAE. And then in 2029 we'll be focusing on the worldwide social auditing of our factories, and then adding a new page to existing website, which may include costs of content creation and development. And then all of this will add up to $250 million in total investment. Thank you so much for your time for our initiatives, and we will be open to any questions.
Thank you very much. You guys did well on time. We're at 23 minutes.
It's, in my opinion, an excellent presentation. Very detailed.
We're gonna stay in roll right now as
That's-
the board. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought
What
you were
I
going
know,
feedback.
I can understand. What I appreciate was the detail you've gone into on some of the financial impacts, because so often in these kind of situations, that gets set aside just in favor of the ethical sustainability, type of thing. So your work there was appreciated and impressive. One of the things that certainly, if I was truly a Zara board member, I'd be painfully aware of the controversies with their current initiatives or past initiatives. So I might pose this differently, but one of the things I would like to see a little bit more of would be some support for the assumption that our consumers care about this. This was kind of delivered as a given, and I personally would think, yeah, that's probably true. The question is it compelling? Does it make them change their behavior? It's one thing to care, another thing to do something with your money and your time and your choice of fabrics. I might prefer this fabric over that fabric, that type of thing. So I'd like to see a little more support on that aspect. But let's say that I buy it, and it's important. I'd like to see a real emphasis on. You mentioned the social media idea. I'd like to see a real emphasis on including them in the story with more than just the reward. That serves my self-interest. Should we consider them giving them an option to donate some of their reward against some of these initiatives for worker sustainability or those kind of ideas? Get them involved, and also I appreciated your calendar. I'd like to see an emphasis all through that on promotion and communication of what the efforts are, the expenses that the company's going to head down this path, so it's not hidden. We talked about transparency. I'd like to make that campaign part of that. Just some comments.
Thank you.
As a board member, I think that I would definitely hire this consulting company. You have done an amazing job. I really liked the things that you said. I personally think that you're right on in identifying the fact that there are studies that show that that consumers do want more and more ethical brands, and we know that there's a market for that. We also know that your brand tends to focus on consumers that may or may not have the money to purchase higher end. So I didn't see that come out, and I think it's a very valid marketing point that I might recommend that you take advantage of. The other thing that I didn't see as much of, and I know it wasn't the focus, but we are a company of, as a board member, I need to think about all of the variety of stakeholders in a company. So great plans for consumer, great plans for how to carry that out, but I'm also concerned about the existing employees. what are their incentives? Because as we may know, we're changing. We're talking about a real culture shift of taking a company that is known for some greenwashing and trying to encourage not just the executives that completely understand why we're doing this, right? But everybody at every level. So, is there a way of tying employees at all levels into the plan and into the reward
That's a
system?
great point.
Other than that, I thought you guys, it's great.
So as a board member, you're asking us for a lot of money. This is a huge investment. How do I know that this massive investment is going to result in an ROI and increased sales? So have you done much, thought and how to quantify what the ROI is on this investment?
More than an ROI, we believe that this is the initiative of a market that is going to be the future. In the way that more companies are going to invest in electric vehicles, and if we can go to the appendix, this is one of the mentions that I wanted to make was the amount of. So this is some of the tax incentives like each country has, which they can take opportunity in these areas. And if you go to the next one, I'm from Spain, so I know a lot of the tax credits that are available in this country. And even though it's different areas, is all the areas that we have recommended. So it's a shift that we believe is evolving. More companies, they are interested in the sustainability. One of the pioneers in the sustainability in the fashion sustainability is EcoAlf, and it's a brand from Spain, and they are focusing on green shifting, and they have also researched and have mentioned some of these transformations in the industry. And if you go to the next one too, this is more recommendations from the energy efficiency, like transportation and as well as charging, as well as vehicle consumes energy.
So these are great ideas to offset the cost of the investment.
Yeah.
But will it actually result in higher sales for the company?
We believe that more consumers are interested in companies that invest in green.
So you think it will translate into higher sales?
Yes. Little by little, it will obviously have a potential impact on ROI, as well as we believe, given the increase in revenue for these areas, because more people will be interested. We are not trying to change the business model of Zara, because they have a very stable and very centric business model in terms of we want to be fast fashion. So in terms of trying to change the whole model of fast fashion, we want to be able to reduce the emissions that they have on the side of those fast fashion distributors. So yeah, we believe that on the long run, it will produce more profits, which can also leverage a position to even raise that investment in other areas or other transformations for a more clean and net zero company.
At least for the first recommendation as well, the program of having the rewards genes program is not only just attracting new customer, but that retention. So I think with the rewards program, we're incentivizing them to come back, donate, and as they're browsing the store, purchase items of, we can give $15 credit, but they're still shopping at the store, still coming back to return, to donate. So there's this new kind of coming back to the store, and also there's this incentive of word of mouth. You'll hear your friend went to go donate clothing, and now you want to go too, so you can go get that incentive and come back. And I think it scales up in that way.
So I'd like to understand that denim exchange program a little bit better. You indicated that it would result in reducing textile waste and keeping denim out of landfill. So I want to make sure I understand the program. So the consumers bring their denim back to Zara. We then partner with a third party who recycles that material, and then does it come back to us? Or what's the 360 on that program?
Yes, it comes back to us to reuse and use make other denim products. So in virgin fibers, for example, are not very recyclable. So when we implement this program, we'll have those fibers that are once again recyclable and be able to reduce the amount of energy that is needed for the making of new products in denim.
So we'll be able to incorporate those fibers back into our products.
Yes, exactly. And in that promotion, that would be part of our promotion as well. So, because consumers will be very much aware that they're shopping recycled denim because of that program.
Okay.
Am I allowed to ask another
Yes,
question?
please do.
Okay. I again, as a board member, really like this, but I have some questions about competition. So what I don't remember you saying is how, I remember seeing some of how this will get funded, but is there a chance that it will cause Zara to have to raise their price points of anything? And if so, what will that do with other organizations? Because we know that Zara would be a great model. I guess the question is, are other companies going to follow suit, or are they going to say, gosh, we don't want to raise our prices if we don't have to, because one of the things that people look for in fast fashion is competitive pricing.
That's one of the main issues that we encounter when we made the recommendations. As the recommendations, we want to be consumer focused, and that's why it was the implementation of the jeans. We want them to be involved in this green shift. However, we believe that it's definitely a main issue, the price points in terms of clothing. However, with the implementation of, for example, the electric vehicles, like charging stations, more companies on the long run are going to need, due to the policies and fees that the government have implemented, into transforming our electric vehicles. So by being a pioneer of starting, it can also leverage them, maybe have other revenue streams from these charging stations. So hopefully they don't need to change the price of this clothing price of this clothing, and just keep being a main competitor in this fast fashion, having the market share that they have in all Europe.
For the first recommendation, so that's the second. The first one, in terms of competitive pricing, in our competitors, for example, we wouldn't be the first program to be denim exchange. For example, Madewell has done this, J. Crew has done this, and how we compete with them is that their incentive is higher dollar amount, by at least $5 or $10. I know Madewell I think their incentive is every pair of jeans you get $20 credit, but their price point is about $90 to $100 per jeans. On our end, it's around $50 to $80 is the highest price, so you get $15 incentive for that. The thing too as well is, because we're part of the Inditex brand, we, in our pilot program, as we scale up, are recommending as well to accept other types of jeans from other brands in the Inditex group. So, for example, Bershka jeans can be accepted at Zara to be able to recycle. So in this way, we're not only limiting ourselves to Zara jeans, but other Inditex brands. And in that way, we have more recycled fiber and reduce costs in that way too.
Thank you.
I had another question about the audits and publishing. You recommended publishing the results, and I understand the concept of transparency, and consumers and investors want transparency, but what if the audit results are bad? Could that backfire and actually make us look worse? And how do you kind of think through the ethical dilemma you have if you're committing to disclose audit results, but then you get bad audit results? What do you think about that?
I think that is where the ethics come into play of really striving to be an honest and transparent company. I feel like as far as the campaigns go on social media, maybe they wouldn't be as oh, look at this audit, because it's not that great. But I think it's just part of being ethically aware, and also that would push Zara to improve their standards. If they're afraid of the backlash from a bad audit, then they would continue to improve overall.
I think also just adding to that, adding the audits on your website is just taking more of an accountability stance. I definitely know that from our research, Zara has had issues in the past with just hiding their factory conditions, and that hasn't really helped them in any way. And obviously they are profitable currently, but if in the long run consumers are wanting to understand more about factories and actually supporting the unions of other areas that they are trying to get better conditions, it's going to look even worse and maybe even dip in their profit if consumers are not trusting the brand to actually take accountability for the factory.
So it's better to disclose bad results than disclose nothing.
It should be sort of a sense of we disclose that it is bad, but we are trying to improve it because of this.
Okay.
And that's how we'll be implementing our social auditing.
Okay. And I guess my last question is, what if we do nothing? What if we as a board, think the financial investment is more than, we have the resources for right now, and we decide that we're not going to do anything? What's going to happen?
I think from my first recommendation standpoint, you're falling behind in many ways with other brands that are implementing similar measures of reward systems. Integrating the customer into it. The incentive is, because we're a fast fashion brand, it is really incentivized to go get that $15 credit and save money in that way. When in reality, perhaps they're shopping more because they think they're getting more. So in not implementing a system like that, where you are retaining the customer, encouraging new customers, you're losing them to places like Mabel and J. Crew, who are implementing measures like these. And again, as the trends suggest, and we'll move forward, consumers nowadays, Gen Z nowadays, is wanting to be more sustainable in that way. So if you don't do anything in that regard, integrating the customer into this business model, you are going to keep losing customers and not retain them because they're not going to abide by our mission as well. Your mission as well.
Any other questions from the judges?
No.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take our board member hat off and give you some constructive and feedback on your presentation. Thank you. You guys did a great job. I really appreciate all the effort that went into the presentation, and would love to hear from my fellow judges about commentary on the presentation itself.
I'm waiting not to be the first one, but that's okay. I really thought that you did a really nice job overall. I think that this is never an easy situation, whether you're a student or a professional in a professional environment. So I appreciate it. I thought that you did a really nice job of answering questions. I would recommend with the presentation, as you're doing this again, maybe looking at the time, because I feel like you got a little bit rushed towards the end. You did make your time, but I felt that it was a tiny bit rushed. A couple of you, and I'm only saying this because I do it, I speak faster than I think. So maybe always take a breath before you start, and remember that we're here to support you, that we want to be here to support you. So I thought you did a really nice job of answering questions. Again, my biggest concern was that I felt overall that the consumers were focused on, but that there were other critical groups that need to be part of the solution that weren't addressed at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have liked to. An ethical dilemma is that. So we often have to look at our the primary organization, and then who else do we need to satisfy? So that's really my feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought the presentation was excellent. I think you all do very well as speakers. Clear, you know your material. You're not really reading from the slides at all. I thought that was very good. The slides, they have some tiny type on them. So as slides, perhaps in some ways they could be simplified, but they're pretty good. But what I said as in character as a board member, I would say again as just an observer, I really appreciated the level of detail that you went into in looking at the costs involved, the issues involved, suggesting specific vendors that would be involved in your solution. Loved the timeline, rollout with the different target amounts of money. Clearly, in a real retail situation, if you had been brought in as consultants, there would have been a greater level of partnership between Zara and your efforts of research before you even got to anything, like that. So we'll just accept that as, indicative of your willingness and interest in getting into the details. But clearly, any corporation would have to make those decisions based on, the finances. But you're making a good case. I'd say in the presentation it could be stronger, as I said in my earlier comment, supporting that, proving the point that consumers are willing to spend money and change behavior based on that. So I'd appreciate a little more proof point before. But the detail was impressive. The thought in spreading the presentation throughout the group was very smooth and even. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Great. I think speed and speaking, I think that's something that anybody presenting needs to learn over time to slow down. Sometimes I know you're trying to put a lot of information into a short presentation. And I think as a result, some of your slides were a little dense, and you covered a lot of ground. I mean, sometimes simpler is better to kind of scale back a little bit, because you guys went really broad and you covered a lot. And I think, again, you just did a great job, but some feedback would be, sometimes you wanted to go simpler and deeper on a smaller number of topics. Also, I think there were a few times it wasn't the right, you were speaking to the board, but you talked about Zara as if they were a different company and like a third party. And so kind of keeping in the role of, we are the board and it's our company. And so kind of remember that a little bit as you're doing your presentation. Again, you guys did a really good job. I think tying some of I know it's really hard, but I think the financial analysis in terms of the cost and the benefit, so that you can kind of have a little bit more clarity around, okay, here's the investment and here's what we project it's going to result in terms of the sales. Mm-hmm. So I think a little bit more in depth on the business analysis. Anyway, I think you guys, again, you did a great job. You clearly worked hard on this and gave a lot of thought to this very complex topic. There's a lot of interesting ethical issues within each of the subsets that you focused on. And clearly an industry that needs some help. And I think it's great to see the attention on these important issues.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.